we are glad that Bhai Arvind also has joined us this evening. Om Shanti, Bhai Arvind.
Om Shanti.
Ok.
Welcome everyone. Thank you for choosing Night Sky.
Om Shanti. Bonsoir à tous.
Om Shanti. Yes.
Bienvenue à notre 4e séance destinée aux professionnels, aux étudiants et au public intéressé par le domaine du droit. Le thème d'aujourd'hui est Professionalism and Spirituality. Pour parler de ce thème, nous avons avec nous le professeur Torel. Bienvenue, professeur.
Thank you very much. Merci bien.
Donc, avant de laisser la parole au professeur, je vais faire une petite introduction du thème, si vous voulez bien. Donc, le professionnalisme et la spiritualité sont 2 éléments essentiels dans notre vie active. D'un côté, nous avons le professionnalisme qui peut être défini en général comme le comportement d'une personne, son expertise, sa capacité vis-à-vis de sa profession. Et dans le domaine du droit, on pense aussi au respect des codes de conduite officiels exigés par la profession juridique. D'un autre côté, nous avons la spiritualité qui est omniprésente dans notre vie et dans notre manière de nous comporter. Et on peut dire que de nombreux professionnels qui réussissent dans leur travail, dans leur carrière, sont des personnes spirituelles. Donc, nous pouvons dire que la spiritualité et le professionnalisme, ce ne sont pas des éléments séparés, mais sont plutôt complémentaires. Voilà pour l'introduction. Je vais laisser la parole à Sister Rupa du centre Brahma Kumari de Rosebel qui va nous dire maintenant quelques mots de bienvenue.
Yeah.
Om Shanti. Good
Shanti.
evening, everyone.
Yeah.
Now, so we are all together today now to discuss on profession and spirituality, which are two subjects, two things that is concerned by everyone. I feel, first of all, we welcome all of you, especially our dear brother, Great Prakash Stohalji, who is our main speaker of this session, and profession and spirituality. And spirituality and values, they are not separate, they are connected. And values, these are part of our life for everyone. But in the long run, with life's ups and downs, we sometimes forget the values, or we lose the values and let the place to some other negative tendencies that maybe we'll say it becomes a hindrance to our own personality, our profession, our relationships. And so when we come back to our own awareness of the soul, the spirit, then the consciousness of the values also come. So the more we are aware of my own self, we are confident of ourselves, now the values become natural in our life. And values, of course, now when we have deprived ourselves of the values now because of situations and things coming in our daily life, letting place to negative tendencies, values are gone. Now to inculcate those values once again, in spite of being in adverse situations, now still we are confident of ourselves based on the values. For that, we need connection with the Supreme Father, the Supreme Soul, who is our eternal backbone, eternal support. Now, in every difficult situation, we think of God. Now, but instead of just thinking of God only in the difficult situation, always we feel the presence and the help of the Almighty Father, the Supreme. He is the ocean of all the divine qualities, the divine virtues. Now, so when there is that connection of the mind with the Supreme, now which we call, in other words, meditation. Now we think of him, every work, everything that before we start, we connect with this ocean of all the values. Automatically, the right value at that time comes, and we use it in our profession, in our behavior with others, in our relationship, and everything turns positive. Where there is positivity, there is stability, and automatically stability will make us perform our actions in the right way. And so we are successful, we are happy, we give happiness to others as well. So spirituality, profession, our values, our connection with our own self, confident about our own self in doing whatever we are doing with that virtue of truth, of happiness, of sincerity. Now, all these values connect with our personality first, and our professions, our relationship with whomsoever we are working with or we are living with. Now that brings success at every step in our life. Best of luck to our professionals, all our students, all those who are listening to us today, and hope this session will bring a lot of benefit to all of you. And we just keep connected with our own real self, the spirit, the spiritual being that we are, the embodiment of values, and connection with the ocean of values, the Almighty Supreme Father. Thank you so much. Om Shanti.
Om Shanti. Professeur, on vous laisse la parole.
Ah, okay. I was waiting for your green light, Vanessa. Thank you. Merci bien. Okay. On ne peut pas commencer sans vos ordres. You are the one who would give us the green light to start, and then we got to accept that. First of all, I have to thank Vanessa very well for, how do I say, facilitating this meeting, this dialogue or conversation that we can say. Next, we have got also the Sister Rekha and Sister Rupa, who are very much instrumental into creating this platform of sharing. It's not a monopoly of professor that he knows about the legal profession or all the intricacies of the legal fraternity, but definitely all of you joining together, we wish to reinforce certain concepts in professionalism and the connection with spirituality. First of all, I would like to draw our attention a little bit back. The first presentation that we had, what Vanessa had actually brought to the forefront was how to deal with difficult clients. Now, this professionalism that we are talking about is closely connected in a context. The context is our legal profession. Professionalism would be, encompassing comprehensively to all other professions. But at this time, we are focusing on only one aspect, is the legal profession. So let's narrow our focus to only one aspect of that we always envisage issues and problems regarding to the legal profession. So at one time, Vanessa had already disclosed to us one issue of how to deal with difficult clients. Let's look at another issue now. The issue is that if we have to deal in the court with an honest and a fair witness, many times we have in our cross-examination, we look for loopholes in order to actually make that witness be a witness that you don't believe in, either by perjury or by understanding of certain concepts. And always we try to find a way of disqualifying the witness. Now, suppose the witness is fair, is very honest. Do we have to deal a lot with that? What is the sense of values that we have when questioning such witness? It's an issue that in the present moment, the word fair and honesty looks to be in an imbalance. We cannot say that this is a fair witness. This witness could have been actually misguided, wrongly informed, or he has not been actually been sustained by good advice. So how fair is this person? And what is our standing in terms of when we are questioning or cross-examining such a witness? That's what we have to see. Now, in this context, this is an issue that I have put in front of you because we have to contextualize all our delivery, all that we are explaining, all that we are talking about. It should be seriously in the boundaries of a context which is dynamic and very active and alive. Professionalism and spirituality look to be certain terms, concept, or we can say certain ideas, philosophy, right? Which obviously people at grassroots level is not easy to understand. So whenever we are cross-examining any witness, what are the professionalism that we have to show? We need to demonstrate. First of all, who is a professional? Then how does he exhibit professionalism? In those, the demonstration of his actually the essential, the attributes of professionalism, how do we actually demonstrate, bring out, bring forth spiritualism? There are three connections. Vanessa has said it already. Sister Rupa also has said it. That connectedness is there all the time. It's unfortunate that we seem to overlook those basic, what you call, values that connect us as human beings. In terms of humanity, for example, the defendant in a court, maybe he's an accused of certain crime, we treat him as a criminal right from the outset. This questions our professionalism. We always say, everyone is innocent before proven guilty. Now, this is something, a very, how do I say it, in a democratic way of thinking, a thinking that is very laudable. There is something that will give us an edge to evaluate human beings and the essentials of humanity. So then, whenever we look at anyone in the court process, in the adjudicating process, we always stand face to face. We are confronting our values, our own attributes as a professional, and then what is the delivery we are giving? How professional is that? How do we exhibit this professionalism? And how does spirituality come in to actually guide us, to bring us into a format, to bring us into a form that in a compartment whereby we don't look at extraneous other factors that may be irrational, maybe not reasonable, maybe illegal, or maybe procedurally wrong. We got to look at all this. Now let's come to the core issue. The core issue is about who is a professional in whichever circumstances you have, whether in the court litigation process, or you are facing your client, or wherever you are, where the calling of your legal profession comes always in the forefront. How do we manage? How do we actually react to situations like this? So now we have got who is a professional. The professional, obviously, we have talked about it earlier. Before somebody could demonstrate the attributes of professionalism, we need to know that this person is a skilled person, a person who is knowledgeable in the area that he is professing to practice. He needs to be knowledgeable to that, and he should be able to demonstrate that through his advice, his action, and whenever he is called upon to speak out, to advise and all that, he has got the acquired knowledge. He is able to demonstrate confidently, competently, without any hesitation, those areas of expertise where he is supposed to give his advice. Now, when we have got this professional, he is able to give, to deliver. How does he actually, what are the fundamentals that he needs to actually show that would give him a good reason for a good decision? Because whenever we have to practice or we have to be actively involved in our professional activities, there's always decision to be taken. Whether it is in a court of law, we have to be very prompt to assess issues as it comes. Whenever there is cross-examination, you'll find that there's revelation of information, and those information has to be articulated in a way that it makes sense, logical, either it is through deductive logic or inductive logic. We need to quickly be very prompt in assessing those information. And the same way, when we are meeting a client, we need to also assess the veracity, the honesty, the integrity part of those information. How do we do that? Decision making is not something that is by the way. It is a very calculated, it is very determined. The decision should be well focused and it should make sense ultimately. Now, when we have got to make a decision, I have spoken about already earlier, the mental strength becomes a very important aspect. To be able, we are developed to such an extent that we are able to see there is where our knowledge in terms of professionalism, where does our knowledge stand? Do we have adequate, do we have sufficient knowledge on that area? Suppose we have got a case of, let's say, divorce. In that case, how much are we? Because nobody is a specialist in all the areas. There are certain areas that we need to be specialized and give our counseling and advice. But if we are not proficient, do we claim that no, because we have to need, it's our profession and therefore this is, what you call income coming? Are we directed only by income? Is this the determinant factor of our relationship with a client? No. Professionalism tells us that how much proficient we are, how much knowledgeable we are, how much our mental strength is that. Now, along with that, I'm just drawing the line, is there the spirituality begins. When after your knowledge that you have got, the application of that knowledge in any situation regarding advice to your client or in cross-examination in a court of law would require wisdom. That wisdom is a very important element to be used. We don't use knowledge only. Knowledge is simply one part of it, but not necessarily the essential. That's all. What we have to do is, how much training do you have to get to that level of wisdom? Knowledge is there. The training is very essential. Experience, what you call experiential learning. Experiential learning means that we acquire through the journey of our learning in terms of experience, in terms of exposure to all of them. That's how we enrich our professional, outlook, and also how we actually practice professionalism. So on one side, to be professional, we need to be adequately be informed. Our mental strength should be very strong, but then the spirituality comes in when we have to actually practice it. And on the way, it has go through the experiential knowledge, experiential journey that you go through, exposure that we actually get through our practices. Now, something else. When we have got professionalism, when we're advocating professionalism, there is one aspect that we may overlook. I'm not saying forgetting, may overlook. The richness of experience of our elders, of our senior legal counsel. We try to overlook that. We found that in our earlier, what to call delivery. We have always said, how competent can we be in order to get the best out of senior counsel? How much are we prepared to listen to them? How much are we able to be humble ourselves to acquire that knowledge? We have done that already in the course of our different delivery. The senior counsel, they are the reservoir, they are the stock of richness in the course of time in the legal practice. Professionalism also teaches that let's get the best out of them. The richness, the enlightenment that they have received already, we should be able to acquire them. And this is the level of spirituality. Humility is a part of the process of refining our innate sense, our inward sense, our whatever is internal, interior sense. We need to refine that. So all these exposures, the ability to show how much we are receptive to those very important elements that would make us stronger mentally, to be spiritually very strong. But before we go from the mental to the spiritual, there are certain various steps that we have to take in order to show that professionalism is not simply advising or showing the extent of knowledge that we have. What we have to show is that the various steps, what are those various steps that we have to look at? What are those attributes that we need to show? Whenever we are exercising or trying to show that we are professionals, there are certain values that Vanessa and we have got Sister Rupa has said. What are those values? Those values do not come just by the way. It's a way of inculcating, or in case of imbibing, taking from outside. We are not like inborn people who have got already those values. Those values are there, but they need to be discovered. They need to be shown. They need to be unraveled and to come out. And how does it come out? Only when we are in contact. Either we are with our clients, with our senior counsel, or we are in a court of law in the practice. All these are moments of learning. So we need to actually strengthen ourselves through various means, mentally, and then intellectually, definitely, and then emotionally as well. All these are components that will actually be to strengthen the character of a professional. If we may be mentally correct, we may be mentally strong, we may be very knowledgeable, but to manage that, if we are emotionally imbalanced, we are not able to show that how to actually bring all the issues together in one format in order to make a reasoned decision. The reasoned decision is at all levels, whether it is at home, in the workplace, or it is on the street, wherever we are. Reasoned decision comes on our way every time. And professionalism is one of the qualities, one of the good, part of this demonstration is that we need to humbly accept it. And to be humble, to show humility is part of spirituality. Because what it shows? Certain values. Those values which I have in my mind, in my practice and all that, I've always observed these very important values. First of all, whenever, wherever we are, with anyone in the legal profession, meeting our peers, our friends, our counsel, whoever, right? There are certain things we call principled. We need to be principled, right? Whatever I'm saying, it needs to be very well calculated. There's a discipline, there's a mental discipline that is required. And that mental discipline comes only when we have energized our inner self towards spirituality. Then we can be principled, because we don't deviate from moral values. We don't deviate from ethical values. We know we can, as a principled person, we can judge, we can balance, this is right and this is wrong. Next value that we have got is we should be respectable. The legal profession, any profession, whether it is teaching, doctor and all that, they are valued because if you are showing respect to the profession will show respect to you. People will trust. This is the most important aspect that we are losing, is being eroded, is the level of trust that we need to have on people. This is actually spirituality, one shade of spirituality that we need to enhance in ourselves, how to be respectable. Respectable in terms of outer outlook and inner outlook. Outer outlook means that how we dress up. An inner outlook would be how actually we are engineering ourselves in terms of applying our good values towards a good reasoning. So these are inner and outer outlook. They are both very important in showing respect and dignity to the profession. Then thirdly, which I've found very important, is to be righteous, which is also a part of to be upright, to be a person of integrity, because what we have got in the course of time, we always say, suppose we are born as good people, but in the course of time, what happens is that's what we call integrity gap. That integrity gap is that where we have lost out on our actual, inner consciousness to be a good person. That integrity gap deviates us from what is to be a good professional. I don't want to tax anyone. I don't want to describe anyone, but integrity gap, I'm sure that many of you are quite conversant what I mean by an integrity gap, where, we lose sight and our erosion of values is always it's a stark reality. Then we have got unimpeachable. This is something very high, unimpeachable. When a person is unimpeachable, means that this person, we rely on his words, we rely on his wisdom absolutely. There's no question about it. It's an unquestionable personality, a person who doesn't deviate from undermine values, and he is quite straightforward in upholding what is good sense, what is actually relevant for good living, and how actually he enhances people to think in a good way. Next is virtuous. The person, we have talked about virtues, we have talked about values. Those virtues are part of the professionalism, and then those virtues actually, they are all emanating from the spiritual sense. And when we described spirituality earlier, we always said that we got a purpose, and that purposeful mission has got a lot of important elements regarding the way of living, the life in which we are living. How good is that? How ethically correct is that? How right or wrong is that? How it is evil or good? All these are determinant factors to determine whether we are virtuous or not. Then we have got, obviously, in our profession is law abiding. Our code of practice, Vanessa has mentioned about the code of practice, it is a guideline. It is a guideline to be a good person, a good professional. So that code of practice obviously is not law, but certainly a guideline by which we regulate our conduct towards better living, better association, enrich feelings of fraternity. All these are important aspects of spirituality that is upheld. If we want to actually conform to those values, then it gives an enhanced sense of good living to all of us and application in our legal profession. Then, obviously, there is something that I always, always speak about is conflict of interest. Conflict of interest is something that we know in law makes a person undermine every process, and you find that there's always not fairness in decision making. In that respect, if we have a conflict of interest, is he bold enough? Is he courageous enough to declare his intention? Which we find a complete erosion in our moral values in our present context. Our living, obviously, we do not even think of whether there is a conflict of interest. We just want to make decisions with or without declaring this aspect of conflict of interest. Okay, so we have got finally the one value, one virtue that I have always upheld, that acting in accordance with the standard of professional behavior. That is the final part of it. When you put the sum total of all what I have said, is that it sort of summarizes, it encapsulates the most important part, is that it is a standard of moral behavior that we all have to emulate. And then, in the passage of time, with experiential learning, exposure, learning from the elders, senior counsels, from the procedure of the court, looking at the client, how to receive the client, how to talk to the client, how to make the client comfortable, bring relief to the client. So in all that aspect is we build, obviously, spirituality gives us a very, very strong edge to build meaningful relationship. If we are not able to build in all these aspects, and there's no meaningful relationship, then we fail to be a professional, we fail in the course of exercising professionalism, and definitely we are a total failure in the application or knowledge, or maybe we don't have a single knowledge of what is spirituality. So for me, I'll conclude that in any profession, if we have to exercise professionalism, then there is a strong connection, a strong bearing. Spirituality is a very important foundation, is a strong basis on which we can rely on safely to make our reasoned decision, to make our legal, fair, and reasonable. We can make our decision acceptable to everyone, and people will definitely respect the decision that we are making. That's why the judges and magistrates, or whoever, we are also part of the judiciary, and we also make decisions. So use our judicial independence based on the foundation of spirituality and make reasoned decisions that will be fair and reasonable to all. And we have to live in a society where everyone lives in harmony, and this can only happen if we practice our professionalism in the way it should be, without undermining values and all the virtuous qualities that we have. Having said so, thank you very much for listening to me. And if anyone wants to add to anything, I'll be very happy, because as I said, I always welcome. Please enrich ourselves by our concerted efforts of all putting our minds together towards a topic that is very relevant, contextual, and topical. Thank you so much. Om Shanti.
Merci, professeur. Est-ce que quelqu'un a des questions? Personne?
You may
Yes.
ask Vanessa. Vous pouvez me demander quelque chose?
Ben, en fait, j'allais vous demander quelque chose, mais vous avez répondu à la fin, professeur. En fait, je voulais voir avec vous, si possible, de citer des conséquences négatives de ne pas utiliser les valeurs que vous avez citées. Mais vous avez déjà répondu.
Ah, merci bien. Merci.
Je-
Alors, j'ai déjà preempted your mind.
I think there's a question from one participant.
Yes.
Yes, it's Arvin. It's Arvin here.
Yes, Arvind,
Thank
how
you
are
very
you?
much for the excellent.
Yes. Yes.
I'm fine. I'm fine. Thank you. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. In fact, when we look at the profession, practically, just some comments, some personal comments of mine. For young practitioners, for example, the competition for clients is quite strong, I must say. And what happened, what I've seen is that many young professionals, when they get into the profession, they have commitments, they have financial commitments, they have loan to pay, they have to look after the parents, or they have any other personal commitments, and they have to survive in the profession. But then, okay, I fully agree that we need to seek the guidance of senior counsel, and that's very important. But when we look at the profession, unfortunately, there are not many senior counsel who are really willing to help young practitioners. Let me give you an example, because I mean, as you said, there's something called expertise. So someone should profess to work in something he professes to be an expert in. Now, for example, we have senior counsel. They would just simply take every single case, every single client who come to their door. And I mean, for example, for small cases, they could refer it to young practitioners, but that is rarely done. So now what happened to those young practitioners? Because they have commitments, very often they are tempted by easy money. For example, drug traffickers are going to approach them and are going to make them, do things which is, I must say, not really ethical. But we cannot really blame them as well, because at the end of the day, they are not getting enough help from senior, they are not getting enough guidance, and they have commitments as well. So it's very easy to sort of fall into these traps. So I think this is an issue of concern which must be addressed by the whole profession. I don't know, for example, there should be a fair distribution of work. I mean, if a senior counsel, let's say, for example, you have a simple assault case or a simple insult case, maybe that senior counsel could refer the matter to a young practitioner. So everybody should be helping each other. And if that is done, I'm sure the profession is going to be viewed much more positively. Because right now, when members of the public are seeing lawyers, they're being perceived as liars, people who are mingling with drug traffickers, people who are protecting, criminals. And then another thing as well. Let's say, for example, we have a young practitioner who's defending someone in court. Well, I mean, on the one hand, he has his principles. Okay, he's not going to be difficult with a witness who's speaking the truth. But on the other hand, he has to do it because he has to show his client is working. I mean, this is just an observation which I wanted to make when we come to the reality of the profession these days. So I don't know, maybe senior counsel who I don't know, they should try to guide junior counsels more. They should try to help them, listen to them, interact more with them, maybe have a platform to interact with them. Because, I mean, okay, let's say, for example, I want guidance from a senior counsel. How do I contact him? Where do I contact him? There is no such platform. I mean, very rarely we have meetings at the Bar Council and so on. So exactly how does that junior counsel approach the senior counsel to seek guidance? So these are practical difficulties which we have in the profession. I just wanted to add that.
Wonderful, Arvind. You have actually painted the realistic side of the profession, and I appreciate that very much. And it's good. We need to be aware of these what you call undermining practices that prevails currently in our profession. What we have explained in the course of this delivery is certain ideal form, right? The ideal form is not a reality. The ideal form is something we can call it normative, that this is what we should do, which Arvind is saying. This is what we should do. It's normative. No, when we are talking about normative, it doesn't mean it's happening. How much of our code of practice, code of ethics that we have got? All are regulations that if one would emulate, will be able to fine-tune our own characters, our own personal attitude and the way of interaction. We would have done that. But the code of practice is simply a book that is closed, it's not open. I must tell you that, because in the practice, I have seen it. It doesn't happen. Again, we are coming to the basic now. The basic is that those senior counsel, unfortunately, they are the one who are unable to transfer these values to the younger generation. What legacy are they creating for others to follow? Are they creating a legacy where the younger counsels will follow their malpractices? In our interaction here, Arvind, what you have said correctly is that we need to change this pattern. We need to change certain ways and attitude of people, especially the senior counsel, who are supposed to be the role model, and they are not. So what example, what legacy do they leave behind? Unfortunately, those values have been eroded to such an extent that we have forgotten what is actually a fair, a reasonable code of practice. We have forgotten that. And this is perpetuating, is going on all the time. It will degenerate. And unfortunately, we will not be able to save as much. But we thank the Sister Rupa and Sister Rekha for actually at least initiating that we can save some of the values, right? One day, Arvind, you will take responsible position. You'll also be a senior counsel. So I don't want that at this time you to be discouraged, you feel frustrated and stressed that this is what is happening. Now I'm going to condition myself in the same formatting. No, this platform is recreating, reviewing, re-engineering our whole concept to be a better person. And I'm sure that out of 10, if we are able to change 3, then we are successful. And that's what our attempt is. And we have to thank Sister Rekha and Sister Rupa for initiating, for facilitating this transformation in us. Thank you, Arvind, for your what you call your depicting the realities of the profession.
Anybody else have any question, any comments, any sharing?
You can share as well. Vaishnavi is there.
Vaishnavi is our technician. She's our technical support. Professor, moi, apprécier si tu es capable re-highlight the few characteristics of the values you were sharing previously.
Yes.
For us to review, it is going to help us in our meditation that is going to follow.
Okay. One, I said.
We talked about humility and respectfulness. If you
Yeah,
can just
yeah.
revise the main, virtues you were highlighting.
Yeah. What I said is that in any profession, one needs to be principled. You have to be disciplined in the thought, in the words, and in the action. Principle. When a person is principled, he's upright in character. He is a person who has got to follow the integrity path, a person whom you can trust, because he's a person you can easily say that it's ascertainable, a person that you can predict. This person, when you go to him, I know he's going to help you. So that knowledge of assurance is a person who is principled. Good. Number two, I talk about respectable, to be respectful all the time. The third one, as I said, is to be righteous, decision. Follow the dharmic principle, right? What is right all the time, right for me and right for others as well. It's not only right for me, it's right for everyone. A decision that is beneficial to everyone. Then I said that unimpeachable. Nobody can question you because of your integrity, because whatever you have decided, the action you have taken, nobody can question that. It's absolutely correct. That's unimpeachable. Then I talk about to be virtuous. Then I said about law abiding. Then it should be without conflict of interest. Then finally, to act accordance with the standards of professional behavior. Those are the virtues, those are the values I always like to uphold in any profession, whether it is legal, teaching, or medical. It should be followed the same format of virtues and values.
And I believe that this is a personal responsibility of the professional.
Yeah, it is.
It requires a lot of self-work.
Self-work and through spirituality.
Yeah, it doesn't just happen that you've done so many years of study in whatever area, and that diploma or that qualification qualifies you with all these virtues and qualifications.
Yeah,
this is something that you need to work on yourself. And I believe that if that part which we are connoting as spirituality, if that self-responsibility is not taken, it is only then that we are unable to deliver whatever we have to deliver in our profession. And this is where all conflict arises and all frustration takes place. And this is where we fail in being whom we want to be, because we all would like to, to embody all these qualities and qualifications you just mentioned. This is our aim. We know we have to be like this, but it requires some personal effort to reach there. We describe as spiritual growth. And if I just look at my professional progress, and I don't look into that spiritual growth, then I won't be able to progress professionally wherever I want to go with my profession. So this is where we can't separate these two things. Can't just be professional. I also have to be spiritual to be really qualified as a professional. We can't dissociate spirituality from professionalism. And I think this is the hardest part of our professional life. Because these are not in books. These are not,
You don't study,
This is connected with self-realization. I have to realize it myself.
Self-enlightenment.
Yeah. And thank you so much for enlightening us, Professor, on the subject of professionalism and spirituality, and how we can never separate these two, in fact. And that not only in the legal field, but whatever be the field, we all need to understand, need to realize how spirituality is part of our life, is part of our profession. It's not something separate that I want to practice, that I want to do to help me in my profession. It is part of my profession. It is part of me. And thank you for making that very clear. At the end, if I don't know if Vanessa has anything to add or any question, we can move forward.
No, it's okay for me. Thank you very much.
Très bien. So, merci beaucoup, Vanessa, pour l'animation et la présentation de cette session ce soir. And thank you so much, Professor, for enlightening us. You've made it very clear. It was very short, very clear, up to the point. And so I'm sure everybody has understood, has got the message and has understood the point. We will finish with a few minutes of meditation. I believe the first step in spirituality, or if we want to develop or grow spiritually to become a better professional, the first thing is being positive about ourselves. Yes, the situation out there might not always be en rose, comme on dit, but it's very important in spirituality to make sure that in my inner world, my spiritual world, c'est-à-dire le moi à l'intérieur, I remain positive, I remain strong, and I remain hopeful. Because this light of hope, this light of positivity, this light of courage, this light of humility will be able to influence the darkness outside.
Yeah.
We don't ignite the light inside, then very quickly the darkness outside, gets in and il nous débalance, il nous décourage. So it's very important to keep the light of hope, the light of spirituality, the light of positivity, the light of courage always lit inside. So I asked Vaishnavi to please share a short video for us that is going to guide us into the meditation that I invite all of you to join me.
Find a quiet space and sit down. Take a deep breath and gently allow your whole body to relax. Become focused by moving your awareness inwards to the center of your forehead. This is the seat of the soul. Focus on this point. Within this silent and still space, awaken a spiritual thought. For example, I am a peaceful soul. Hold this thought. Don't think hard about it. Allow your mind to wrap itself around this simple positive thought. I am a peaceful soul, a being of peace. Hold this thought in your mind and very slowly allow your heart to experience it. Reaffirm the thought if you need to. Say it again to yourself and deeply experience it. As I hold this thought, I become the form of the thought. I am completely absorbed in the experience of the thought. This is meditation.
So thank you very much, Professor, for your rich sharing today and your enlightenment. Thank you, Vanessa, for facilitating. Thank you, all participants who joined us on Zoom and a few on YouTube, and I'm sure there'll be more viewing our videos on our channel later on. I hope this session has been helpful, worthwhile to you. We meet professionals and students in the legal field every month, the last Thursday of every month. So we invite you in advance for next month, the last Thursday, and we'll be sharing invitation with the topic that we're going to decide, and I'm sure these topics will be very helpful to you in your professional life. So thank you so much, and wish you all a very pleasant night and a very good weekend ahead. Om Shanti.
Om Shanti, Ben. Om Shanti.
Shanti, bye.
Om Shanti. Bye.
Yeah. Okay.